All right. What is going on, everyone? DSP here. And it is time. Yes, it is that time of year again, ladies and gentlemen, to discuss the best games of 2021. 2021 was a very unique year for many different reasons. I think that COVID kind of threw a monkey wrench into game development plans. A lot of games that we thought were going to come out in 2021 ended up getting delayed and or the schedule was shuffled around a bit. And the interesting thing about this is for the whole first half of 2021, people would come on my streams and say, Phil, what's your favorite game so far of the year? Like, what's your front runner for game of the year? And I'd be like, man, besides like maybe one or two games tops, I don't even know that there's been a game that's been exciting enough for me to even say I would consider it like game of the year. And then the second half of the year hit, and within a very short time frame, a ridiculous amount of game releases came out, and many of them were actually shockingly good to the point where I didn't even think they were going to be good, and they were way better than I expected. And now, ladies and gentlemen, this year for 2021, I actually have more than 10 games that I have selected for my Game of the Year Awards countdown. In fact, I have selected a lucky number 13. 13 games that I'm going to go through that I will personally tell you are my favorite games of the year. Okay? Now, a few things to go over. Number one, these are my personal picks. These are not based on, taking common opinion or whatever. If I took common opinion, there'd be 4 games on here I didn't even like. Okay? People this year, I don't know. People really seem to, especially in the mainstream media, they liked games that just didn't make any sense to me, saying that they were Game of the Year contenders. That's just my personal take. But this is basically my personal opinion on the games that I played over the year. However, it's only based on the games that I've played. A lot of times when I do Game of the Year awards, people disagree and like, oh, what about this game and this game? If I didn't play it, I can't rank it. All right? Understand that. I am a one-man, and I do daily gameplay streams. I play a ridiculous amount of games in a year, but I can't get to everything. And I've actually found in recent years it's a lot harder now to stay on top of every new release that people say is good. In some cases, some of these games I'm about to go through, I skipped it at launch and ended up playing it later and ended up absolutely loving it and putting it into my Game of the Year countdown. All right? So, we're going to do that. I'm excited. Now, if you're watching this on demand on YouTube, not the live stream, but if you're actually watching it as a video on demand on YouTube, you have an exciting opportunity. The comments are on. For the first time in so many years, the comments are actually on this video. You will have opportunity to have intelligent discussion with other people watching this video about my choices. Do you agree? Do you disagree? Do you think a game should have been ranked higher or lower? You can actually talk about it. And I'm excited about that, man. So I hope to see many comments on this video and actually engage in nice discussion with you guys after the fact. All right? All right. Before we get started, BeastBod tipped $1.50. Says, you mentioned David Cage games. Are you looking forward to Star Wars Eclipse? I am. I like Star Wars. I like David Cage games. I think it's a good combination. So we'll see what happens when we get more information on that game moving forward, because it is apparently still kind of in earlier development, to my knowledge. Okay. All right, guys, let's get started. Excuse me. Let's get started. My number 13 best game of 2021. Some of these are going to, I should preface this, some of these will surprise you guys. Here's why. I don't review games anymore. Okay, I used to be a full reviewer of games. I would have the Hateful Truth game series where I would give them a number score. I don't do that anymore. So you guys literally have no idea how I'm ranking the games from this year at all, right? All right, here we go. Number 13 is a game that I bet you no one will see coming. Ladies and gentlemen, it is, if it ever shows it, because I think I have a little intro here. Come on now. It's going to show it any second, I swear. It's going to get past this in 5, 4, 3, 2, 2, 2. God damn it. Okay. Super Mario, not really. Bowser's Fury. Who remembers Bowser's Fury from earlier on in 2021? Okay. Now, this game was a very unique experience because what this game did is it took the open world exploration and puzzles of Super Mario Odyssey. And it combined it with this cool mechanic that Bowser was a giant mutated kaiju monster that was constantly after you. The game had these unique things where you could transform yourself into a giant Mario to battle the kaiju monster, while you were also trying to like run around and solve puzzles, ride Plessy the Plesiosaur. It was really cool. And by the way, it was absolutely different from anything Mario that I had played up to this point. Sure, it had some very familiar mechanics from Super Mario Odyssey for sure, but the fact that you're always on the run from Bowser chasing you and you're trying to find a way to fight him in a big time boss fight and stuff was super duper unique. Now, there's a major reason why this is number 13. Because honestly, it's not a full-fledged game, okay? It was meant to basically be a taste of things to come, I feel. Like, I think that Nintendo wanted to show you, hey, this is our idea for something unique that we can do in the future, maybe as a full-fledged game. And remember, what they wanted to do is they wanted to re-release Super Mario 3D World, but just re-releasing Super Mario 3D World, which is an older game, they probably couldn't warrant a big price tag, you see? So they wanted to bundle in something unique with that. And this is what they bundled. In my opinion, this is quite good, okay? I actually really liked Bowser's Fury. The fact that you had Bowser Jr. kind of teaming up with you. Look at the problems I'm having right now. What the clip that I selected to show you guys, let me tell you, very representative of how good the game is. But anyway, it was just fun as hell. What I would say is I really liked it, even though it's very short. Bowser's Fury, I believe, was what, like 5-6 hours long. It was a very unique and fun experience. And what I would say is I would hope that it sold well enough that they will actually make a full-fledged game out of this. Because I liked the fact that it was Super Mario Odyssey in a set playing with all these puzzles and hidden items, and you had to find ways to defeat Bowser. It was very unique. It was something different and refreshing, and I like that about when Nintendo will take a first-party franchise, and instead of doing the same thing over and over and over, they take risks and they do something a little different. And Bowser's Fury absolutely did that. If anything, it was actually a little disappointing that they didn't make a full-fledged game out of this yet. But hopefully this was a test of this formula, and it went well. And now they actually will make a full-fledged game like this. How about if this was like 10 different maps, right? 10 different worlds, and each world had a different giant monster, a giant blooper, a giant Koopa, a giant Koopa Kid, right? And each time you had to like do unique fights to get these bosses while also solving puzzles and things. I actually feel this would be super duper fun. So, Bowser's Fury. The only unfortunate thing about it, you can't just buy it, right? I wish you could. I wish you could just buy it and be able to play it by its own without having to buy the collection with Super Mario 3D World. Because if you've already played Super Mario 3D World, it would be great to just get the Bowser's Fury by itself, but I don't think you can. I think you have to buy it as part of this collection, which is kind of shitty. But outside of that, really great game, unique experience. Check it out if you haven't. Actually really, really enjoyed it. All right. Didn't have much to say about it because there's not much to say about it. It's Mario Odyssey with an open world atmosphere, puzzles, and a giant Bowser to fight. So, okay. Someone named Wings of Regret tipped me $1.50 asking me, where did I get this? This little sound box. This could be found a lot of places. I personally bought it at all places, a Container Store at my local mall. But I've seen these so many different places or similar things like this. Little sound effect box that I play on my stream. You can get it anywhere. Okay, so thank you for the $1.50 tip. Now, moving on, ladies and gentlemen. Moving along in our countdown here. The next game in my Game of the Year awards for 2021 is, what is it? Okay. So this is interesting. I'll give you a little bit of background. This is a game I didn't know existed, hadn't planned on playing, didn't have it in my schedule. It just kind of fell into happening on my streams. In fact, I can massively give a shout out to my moderator, Swaggins, who had recommended this game to me. He had been playing it personally and said that he liked it and thought that it would be right up my alley. And then when I actually eventually played it, I was like, oh my God, this game is actually quite good. Now, is this game groundbreaking, blow your mind? Good? No, but it definitely needs to get a shout out, ladies and gentlemen. It is Tormented Souls. For those of you who are old school survival horror fans like me, okay? This game was everything good about classic survival horror. Cheesy voice acting and a plot that made absolutely no sense because it was convoluted and silly, but nonetheless, it was scary, okay? Graphics that, for the time, are quite good. The tank controls and fixed camera angles that we grew up with classic survival horror games of the 1990s, including the original Resident Evil games 1 through 3, as well as the original Silent Hill franchise, right? There's just something about the classic survival horror games that kind of, you know, make the genre feel unique and special and creepy and fun, because maybe there's limited ammo, because the camera angles are fixed and you can't really control your character effectively. There's no dashing dodge button where you can magically roll out of the way of an enemy, right? Because of that, it just adds to the suspense and the horror of the feeling that you get when you're playing the game. And this game, Tormented Souls, really, you could tell this game was made by fans of the original Resident Evil. There's tons of references. Some of the puzzles are actually quite similar, while others are overly complex and just totally way more complex than things from the original Resident Evil games. I mean, just to give you some perspective, the beginning of the game, you grab a padlock, okay? You carry this padlock over the entirety of the game and never know what it's for. At the very tail end of the game, you use the padlock to solve a puzzle. Like, whoa, right? That's pretty crazy. Like, you would never really think of that. Nope, okay, it's been in my inventory for a reason. All right, and then you use it. It's pretty crazy. The enemies are creepy, although admittedly, they're not as fleshed out as, say, enemies from, say, Resident Evil or Silent Hill. They're just kind of mutated freaks. The plot, again, is kind of silly and ridiculous. It's not meant to be taken very seriously. But, again, if you like the plot line of classic Resident Evil or Silent Hill, you're probably going to enjoy the game. The boss fights, nothing too special. What I did like about the game is, much like classic Resident Evil, you're going to go through this big building, mansion, police precinct, house. I'm not even sure what it is. Because I swear it has things that look like all of those things in them. Even a hospital has a hospital ward. So it's kind of like they really tried to mishmash in all the themes and areas from classic survival horror into one game. I just got to forewarn you, all right? If you're interested in playing the game, there's two things that you may not like as much. The first is definitely that some of the puzzles are incredibly cryptic to figure out, and or you may have to do a lot of trial and error with some of the puzzles to solve them. It's definitely not straightforward, but again, a lot of the puzzles of classic survival horror games also weren't straightforward, so that's what they were going for. But you may have to scratch your head a bit, and yes, you may actually have to look up some of the solutions to the puzzles online. The other thing is, definitely expect the controls to be, how can I say, stiff and outdated. They do not feel like modernized controls for any game that you've played, by any means, but that's intentional. The game is literally a throwback. Much like Double Dragon Neon, which was a game that was meant to play like classic Double Dragon, and if you played it and complained that it played like classic Double Dragon, you didn't get the point. It's kind of the same deal here. You are definitely going to have times in the game when you're frustrated because the controls are weird, you're lost, you're going in circles, you can't figure out a puzzle, but that's all part of the charm of original survival horror games. By the way, the game is not expensive. I believe when I bought it, I want to say it was either $20 or $30, so now it may be even less expensive. And yeah, it's something that I'm very happy that I played. It's easily missable because it didn't get a lot of press or a lot of marketing when it did come out this year. It's kind of like, it really is, I feel like it's like a hidden gem among all the games that came out in 2021 because no one really hyped it or talked about it. But man, again, if you like survival horror from back in the day, it feels like you're playing a new, old game. You know what I'm saying? Like, imagine if there was a Resident Evil 4 that played like Resident Evil 1 through 3. That's definitely what this game is. And so, it's definitely like an homage or a spiritual successor to the games of yore that you never get to see anymore, right? Survival horror has gone in one of two directions, either third-person action or first-person kind of survival, almost like walking simulator kind of deal, which is not bad, but man, do I miss the days of the old school stuff, and this game, dead on, is exactly how I feel a new Resident Evil game should be if they ever made one, or a new Silent Hill. So, Tormented Souls, give it a look, especially if maybe you've never heard of it before. If you like the old school stuff from the 90s, I really, really, really think you're going to enjoy this game. Alrighty. Very nice. Okay. Moving on. The next game in my Game of the Year countdown for 2021 is a game that, in my opinion, is one of the most unique games that I've played in many, many years. Although I would argue it is maybe an homage to some games from the 1990s, it really is unique and interesting and different and was a breath of fresh air, although it was also incredibly disturbing. The game that I'm talking about is called 12 Minutes. A game that was under Microsoft Game Pass, which was nice to be able to play it as a Game Pass game and not have to pay for it. Because it is such a unique formula and very different from other games that are out there, it was nice to be able to play it, and maybe if I didn't like it, it wouldn't have been a risk, but hey, I liked it. So, a game that takes place entirely within one area of a building, one apartment, okay? You're basically confined to the bedroom, the bathroom, the living room. That's it. There's nowhere else to go in this game. A game with notable voice actors. James McAvoy, Daisy Ridley, and Willem Dafoe, the three main characters of the game. Although there are some supplementary characters you never see on screen, these are the three main voice actors of the game. What is the game? Well, you arrive home from work or a trip or somewhere. You have some interaction with your wife. All of a sudden, a man breaks into your apartment, accuses your wife of heinous crimes, asks you where some kind of a hidden item is. You don't know what's going on. Next thing you know, you get knocked out and or killed, depending on your actions. And then you wake up again in the apartment, a la the idea behind the movie Groundhog Day. You're in an infinite time loop where this thing keeps going over again and again and again and again and again. Your job is to try to figure out what the heck is going on. Who is this guy who keeps breaking into your apartment and trying to either murder you or take something from your apartment? You don't really understand what's happening. The uniqueness of the game is that you can figure stuff out dependent on trial and error, or by having dialogue with the wife, and or trying to overhear things that are going on in the game if you hide when the person first breaks into your apartment. And the game basically fans out to being this ridiculously convoluted plot that you never would have expected just by playing it through, or even hearing the premise of the game sounds interesting. I don't want to spoil the plot of the game, because sadly, if I do, I feel like I will take away a major part of the excitement of the game and a major part of the uniqueness of the game if you know what actually is happening in the plot, okay? But let's just put it this way. It's dark, it's shocking, and some people were actually so bothered by it that they heavily criticized and or panned the game. Saying things such as, oh my god, I can't believe they would put that inside of a video game. What's going on in this plot is absolutely over the top, ridiculous, and bad. And personally, I just thought it was so unique. I had never actually seen anything like this take place in a video game before. And I was like, what the hell? I'm not saying I necessarily loved the plot. I just was like, my jaw dropped. I was blown away that they were actually going there. The uniqueness also is that there's so many different things you can figure out. Hide in the closet and do one thing, and you'll hear a conversation that leads to you doing something else, you know? And it's just this weird branching effect. Spiderweb effect, I guess, is the best way that you could describe it. A spiderweb effect, where one thing you found out can lead to another thing, can lead to another thing. And the next thing you know, oh my god, a revelation here, a revelation there. And then you can actually try to fight the guy who's breaking into your apartment, or you could try to fool him, or you could try to call someone who knows him and convince him not to do this heinous act that he's doing in your apartment. It's pretty interesting in that regard. So I really liked it. It was very unique and different. Are the graphics breakthrough? No. Is the gameplay revolutionary? No. But, man, it was absolutely one of the most unique gameplay experiences that I had in 2021, and quite frankly, in a very, very long time. I don't know if they'll ever even make another game like this, quite frankly. In fact, the closest thing that I would compare this to is like Secret of Monkey Island or something else. But, man, with the whole time loop mechanic and everything, it just makes it so different from other games that I've played. And, of course, the voice acting is top-notch in this game. So I really enjoyed having that level of production value in it. So, 12 minutes, a fun game that's very unique and different. However, admittedly, it is kind of short. I believe my playthrough was only about 6 hours long, and I had seen everything. Like, I saw all the alternate endings and everything to it. So, it's definitely not a game that, like, is going to appeal to someone who wants a ton of replayability or a ton of gameplay. If you're looking for a very short, unique experience in a game, 12 minutes is the way to go. Although you might get stuck and you may have to look stuff up on the internet to figure out how to solve it, because, man, some of the stuff in the game is, again, much like Tortured Souls, very cryptic when you're trying to figure out what's the alternate scenario I do here or there. But one of the things that I really liked about the game was the trial and error aspect of try this, try that, and see how that changes things in the gameplay mechanics. I really liked doing that, okay? But it's on Game Pass. So if you're a Game Pass subscriber, man, you really have no excuse, because you don't have to spend any extra money to play it. And I feel it is one of those games that kind of fits perfectly into what a Game Pass game should be. Okay? All right. Up next in my countdown of my best games of 2021 is a game that if you were already here earlier, you might be a little shocked, but I still want to give credit where credit is due. Ladies and gentlemen, Forza Horizon 5. Now, this was already in my most disappointing games of the year countdown. And so some people ask, what? How could you have a game that's in your most disappointing games of the year countdown, but also in your best games of the year countdown? All right? Well, there's a simple reason why. Because even though this game didn't necessarily live up to my full expectations of doing something innovative or new or different, and therefore it was a little disappointing to me, it was still a great game. I had a ton of fun going through the open world of Mexico, taking in all the sights, driving various kinds of cars. Let me tell you, some of the best graphics that I've ever seen on a console, for sure, on the Xbox Series X, running at a very silky smooth 60 frames per second, having beautiful lighting, weather effects, water effects. What was in the game was good. Okay, I did like some of the story-based missions. I did like some of the stunts. All right, I do feel the game could have done more to innovate, and that's why I actually ended up on my most disappointing games of 2021 countdown. But for what was there, it was all polished and good and fun. In fact, the only issue I ever had was with the online modes, which did not work at the one point that I wanted to try them. Apparently, for what I'm to understand now, they've patched the game, and now the online modes all work nice. So if you were holding off to play this game, now might be a great time to play it. Again, it's another one under Game Pass. And by the way, it has a ridiculous amount of content for a driving game. I mean, I think I played it around between 15 to 20 hours and probably, arguably did about half the content in the game, but I did all the things necessary to complete the story of the game. There was still a ridiculous amount of stunt jumps and hidden cars and challenges with drifting and racing and things that I did not do. I basically just did the things that were necessary to advance the major plot of the game. But if you want to take your time with this game and do all the content, I could see someone getting upwards of like 40 or more hours out of the game just driving around open world Mexico and checking out all the different things that are in it. So I want you guys to understand something. Just because I'm disappointed a bit in a game does not mean it's not one of the best games of the year. I firmly believe Forza Horizon 5 was the best racing / driving style game of 2021, which is why it absolutely deserved a spot in my Game of the Year award countdowns. Could it have been better? Yes. And that's why I do feel that it was also one of the more disappointing games for me, but it was still a great game, and you should absolutely play it if you're interested in anything to do with driving or racing or simulation like this, it's a must play. Do not skip it. Alrighty then. In that case, I didn't have as much to say about that one because I already talked about it in my disappointing games countdown. All right. All right. All right. Now we're heading into the top 10, my friends. So, my number 9 most liked game or favorite game or best game 2021 is... Wait, did I miss... Wait a minute. Here it is. Almost misclicked. Kena Bridge of Spirits. Yes. A PlayStation 5 exclusive. An actual PlayStation 5 exclusive that I liked enough to put into my Game of the Year Awards countdown. Alright? Now, Kena Bridge of Spirits. Let's talk a little bit about this game. First of all, was made by a smaller studio. Okay? It's not a game that had a ridiculous amount of budget or investment or an insanely huge dev team. What they pulled off in this game, I was quite impressed with. The visuals, first of all, as you can see, are stunning. Yes, they are a little bit cartoony, but it has this unique own style. And the rot creatures that you recruit over the course of the game all being unique and cute and fun. Look at the amount of them that actually spontaneously generate here on PS5. It's pretty impressive. The whole open world aspect of the game, where you're wandering around a series of different kinds of maps. Sometimes you're in a forest, sometimes you're on a mountaintop, sometimes you're in open plains, and you're trying to solve a series of puzzles while also fighting a variety of enemies and exploring. It's really fun in that regard. I definitely enjoyed Kena Bridge of Spirits more than I thought I would. At first, when I saw all of the advertisement for it and the production logs and the things that they put out all over the internet to advertise it, I thought it would just be okay. But what happened is, as I played the game more and more, it grew on me. As you can see, there's some pretty unique and interesting things in the game for abilities that you gain over time. And these abilities just make the game feel like it has its own unique identity. Turning those rot monsters into a ginormous water creature that then runs around the map to try to solve puzzles. Pretty fun and unique. Having floating stones, right? And then the further you play into the game, the more gameplay mechanics you actually unlock. Okay? Including a bow ability, the ability to actually do like double jumping and hovering and stuff like that. That basically makes it feel like not only an open world exploration game, but there's a ton of puzzle element and exploration to it as well that makes it super fun. I like open world games like this because it gives me more opportunity to do things and discover things for myself rather than, say, a game that's way more linear. I feel like if Kena had not been open world, it wouldn't have been nearly as good of a game as it was, because it makes you feel like you're actually kind of solving unique puzzles and things for yourself rather than just going along a guided path. You know what I mean? Boss fights are quite fun. The visuals of the game hold up and actually are very beautiful. Again, for a game studio that was relatively not that well known, I was very impressed with what they pulled off with this game. At first, admittedly, I feel like the first third of the game is slower, and then as the game progresses, it gets more interesting the further in you get, and the more abilities that you unlock, the more rot monsters you find, which then give you, more combat capabilities and more puzzle solving capabilities. I do feel by the end of the game, it's very, very good. But it is a slow build of sorts at the very beginning. If you can tough out the first maybe 5 hours where you're very basic in the things that you can do, and then eventually realize that once the world opens up that it becomes a lot more entertaining, I think you're really going to enjoy your experience with the game. Now, I'm going to be honest here. I really liked it, but for some odd reason, okay, my viewing audience didn't necessarily like it nearly as much as me. So perhaps this is one of those cases where this is a game that's more fun to play than watch. I'm not sure. For me, I was having a blast with it, solving puzzles, taking my time, looking for optional upgrades and hidden rot monsters, and then, enhancing the combat over time. I just really had a good time with it. But in general, the people who were attending the streams were kind of like, meh, we understand why you like it, but it's not exactly the most riveting thing for us. So perhaps this is a game that is a lot more fun to experience firsthand and actually try the puzzles and things yourself rather than watch someone solve them. But that's fine, because this is not a countdown of the best streamable games of 2021. It's a countdown of overall the best games of the year. And I definitely feel like Kena Bridge of Spirits did something unique, interesting, and different with the whole action platformer kind of genre of games. That's definitely worth your time to check out. By the way, I was already corrected. It is not a PS5 exclusive. This is a game that was also on PS4. I don't believe that it ran as well or had graphically the same amount of graphics. For example, as you can see on the screen here, I have a lot of rot monsters with me. Little cute little guys. They're called rot. And I believe on the PS4, it renders dramatically less of them to, you know, cut down on computing space or whatever you want to say. I don't know if it's a hard drive issue or a processor issue, but I guess they basically cut down on that dramatically so that the game could run much better on an older console. But overall, man, great game. Really, really enjoyed it. If you like action platformers with puzzle aspect and open world exploration, you got to give it a look. It's definitely one of the best games of 2021 by far. All right. Very nice. So we're getting there, guys. Yeah, we're getting there. I wonder, are you guys, I'm just curious, so far, let's open this up a little bit to the stream chat. So far, are you guys in agreement with my picks? Or you guys think that I'm totally off base and I shouldn't have picked those games? Let's see what people have to say in the stream chat before we continue on with number 8. We've got... Oh, I'm being told System 32 says it looks about the same on PS4, but it's only 30 frames per second. That's Kena Bridge of Spirits. A lot of people are guessing. A lot of people are guessing what my top games of the year will be. I don't know if you guys are correct or not. I'm not going to spoil, obviously. Biohazard feels like it's a good pick. Or good picks. Fortuism Zone said, I agreed with all your picks, especially Deathloop. If you don't know, that was in my disappointing games countdown. But what about Call of Duty? I'm only putting games into my countdowns that I've played. Alright? Game of the Year awards, I can't put a game in here I didn't play. Disappointing countdown, I can't put a game in there that I didn't play because how can I be disappointed by a game I didn't buy and play, you see? It's only fair. So, the CEO of Grubhub agrees with me 100%. There you go. Alright, gaming industry thinks the picks are good. Alright. Alright, ladies and gentlemen, let's continue on. My number 8 pick. Best game of the year for 2021 is Life is Strange True Colors. Robble. People are about to disagree with me. I know. That's okay. But you guys know I like a good narrative-based game. I loved back in the day playing Telltale games. I loved the original Life is Strange. And I felt that ever since Life is Strange 1, sadly the series veered in a very bad direction. Okay? Life is Strange Before the Storm was terrible. Took away the whole superpowers aspect of the game and a lot of the air of mystery and fun. It just became a teen angsty game that I hated. Life is Strange 2 re-added in superpowers, but then ended up being some of the worst heavy-handed writing I've ever seen in a video game, quite frankly. Trying to push a lot of agendas down our throats that did not sit well with a lot of the people who watched my playthrough of it, and I myself even couldn't stomach it after being told about 17, 18 times in the first 3 of 5 episodes that Americans are terrible, bigoted people who are very biased and racist. I basically didn't want to play anymore, okay? And so, when Life is Strange True Colors was announced, I was skeptical it was going to be any good. But of course, I wanted to give it a fair shake. Everything that I'd seen about the game leading up to its release was kind of interesting. The main character having the ability to see emotions. And when she sees them, she feels them. It was kind of a unique take on a superpower. Okay? Personally, I went into the game with little to no expectations, thinking that it probably would not be very good and would end up being a cringeworthy game, just like Life is Strange Before the Storm or Life is Strange 2. I'm here to tell you, ladies and gentlemen, I was incredibly pleasantly surprised. First of all, this game was released all at once, rather than an episodic game as all the previous Life is Strange games had been released. Because of that, you were able to play it from start to finish as a complete narrative. You don't feel disjointed. You don't get confused. It's not broken up to the point where now, oh, what happened last time? I had to wait 2-3 months for the next part. Because of that, I actually feel the game is dramatically better than the formula for the previous Life is Strange games, okay? Now, as for the plot and the characters, you're Alex, a girl who was just released from what appears to be possibly like a mental health facility or other some kind of long-term care facility, and you meet up with your estranged brother in a small town. You're basically starting your life over. But tragedy strikes because only within a few days of you arriving, your brother is unfortunately killed in what seems to be an accident. So, for the rest of the game, you now have to figure yourself out. Are you someone who fits in this small town? Can you befriend the locals and find a place to actually have a place to fit in? What actually happened with your brother? Was it a setup? Was something sinister going on behind the scenes of this small town that actually had your brother get murdered? Was it just an unfortunate accident? What actually is going on? Because you have the ability to read people's emotions, it gives you unique insight into people who are lying to you, and then leads to some interesting plot points and investigation. So, in regards to Life is Strange True Colors, because there's an ongoing air of mystery, the game now has appeal when it comes to suspense and finding out what is actually going on in this town. That completely undermines the plots of Life is Strange Before the Storm and True Color, or excuse me, Life is Strange 2, where the plots were kind of, honestly, disbelievable. In this case, I could believe that a girl, is trying to make herself fit in with these people. Now, I'm not going to be too overly positive about the game. Yeah, some of these characters are ridiculous. You got Mr. Macho Man there, who just oozing machismo. Look at him, he's got to have the perfect hairdo. He's a lumberjack hat, and he's supposed to be like the buff, attractive male. And then you got the girl who's supposed to be like the hipster in town who you're supposed to be attracted to. And yes, there's some teen angst. At one point, they even make you try to choose between the two for a romantic relationship, and it's kind of wedged in there. All right? It's not perfect. But for those of you who like gameplay that has good writing, boy, did I just say the wrong thing. If you like a game that has a good writing with an interesting plot, believable characters, and an ongoing air of mystery, kind of like how interesting Life is Strange 1 was, well, then you're going to really like Life is Strange True Colors. In fact, I would arguably say the following. If you play Life is Strange 1, and then you play Life is Strange True Colors, it actually feels like you're playing Life is Strange 2. It does. It feels like you're playing the direct sequel, because this game is very similar to Life is Strange 1 in many different ways. In addition to that, the game has a lot of unique parts that are very interesting and fun to me. Like, for example, there's an entire stage where you're LARPing, and I know that sounds ridiculous. But at the very same time, the entire stage of the game is played as a turn-based RPG a la Final Fantasy. It's unique that they actually stuck something in like that into a otherwise narrative-based style game. By the way, the graphics are good, even though admittedly they can be choppy at times, and I wish that the frame rate was a smooth 60 frames on PS5. The graphics are pretty good for this kind of game. The character development is good. There's no ridiculous, unbelievable, over-the-top bullshit that makes you hate the game by the end, which is exactly what happened to me in Life is Strange 2. Overall, it was a really enjoyable experience, and I was shocked at how much fun I had with Life is Strange True Colors when I had been so off-put by Life is Strange Before the Storm and Life is Strange 2. Even if you don't like cringe stuff, yes, there is some cringe in the game, but you'll be able to get by it and still enjoy the game, I feel. I don't think that because of the missteps of the last two Life is Strange games that someone should pass this game by and not give it a chance. I actually feel like it is a pretty damned good gameplay experience for someone who likes narrative-based games. Okay? So, Life is Strange True Colors. A return back to form for the series. I personally hope that the game did well, and I hope that they stay with this style. I hope that they've realized that their missteps in the last two Life is Strange games led them here back to square one, and that square one was a good square to be on. They didn't need to veer off of these weird directions and do these odd things. They don't need over amounts of teen angst. You don't need really heavy-handed, you know, liberal plot lines and things wedged in. Just give me some unique, fun characters and a suspenseful mystery to solve, and you're going to end up liking a narrative-based game, and that's what this game did great, so I hope that you'll give it a look. All right. By the way, I was just looking online the other day. That game is way cheap now. Like, originally when it came out, it was actually a full-fledged $60 release. I believe it's down to like 25 bucks now. So definitely now kind of in line, because it is about, if I remember correctly, my playthrough was like 15 hours long or something like that, maybe a little shorter. So you argue, oh, $60 is way too much. Now it's way cheaper. Definitely give it a look now that you'll be able to get it for a much more discounted price, and it's a good value for that price. So, all right. Continuing on, my number 7 most liked game 2021 is, that's right, ladies and gentlemen, it's a game that you guys tried to convince me to play when it was a new release in October. I kept making excuses and beating around the bush and telling you I just couldn't get to it. And then when I eventually did play it, I actually loved it. Ladies and gentlemen, it's Metroid Dread for the Nintendo Switch. So, Metroid Dread, let's talk a little bit about it, all right? For the last ridiculously long amount of time, 15 plus years, people have said, man, Metroid's a good series. Metroid Prime is a good series. But it really would be nice if Metroid could eventually go back to its 2D roots, exploring a large, cavernous area, a maze-like labyrinth full of enemies, unique abilities, puzzles to solve, platforming, bosses, challenge, exploration, you know, all the things that made the original Metroid great. And don't get me wrong, Metroid Prime is a very good series. I played Metroid Prime 1, and I could understand how basically taking the series into the first person at that time kind of made sense for the modernization of the series. But man, it had been so effing long since we had actually seen a Metroid game play like a classic Metroid game. And I'll be very honest with all of you guys. I knew the game was coming out this year. I liked everything I had seen about the game. The fact that this game added in a new element of these Emmy robots. These are robots that are supposed to hunt Metroids and or alien creatures. By the way, Samus is infected with a Metroid and or alien creatures, so the robots think that she's an enemy, okay? These robots are basically indestructible and act like the nemesis from the Resident Evil franchise. So when you run into one of them, you basically can't kill them. You have to avoid them as long as you can until you find a way to eventually kill them. And each one of them can kind of be like a unique puzzle or a lot of platforming. It's very tense when you run into one of these Emmy robots because you know you cannot kill them. You just have to basically run away and survive. That's one of the more unique parts of the game. Outside of that, as you can see, the game looks and plays like classic Metroid. And there's absolutely positively, nothing wrong with that at all. I actually feel that this game did exactly what the fans wanted. They brought it back to its roots. A ginormous labyrinthian series of tunnels, puzzles, different climates, different enemies that change over time and become more challenging. One thing that I was actually impressed with was the way that they delivered the plot. This game has some cutscenes and has some plot elaboration, but not a heck of a lot. Most of the plot is actually delivered by a narrator who you'll run into in certain rooms of the open world area. And this narrator will actually give you like updates on what you're supposed to be doing and or explanations of puzzles, enemies, and things that are going on. You don't have to sit through a bunch of convoluted over-the-top cutscenes to understand the plot of Metroid Dread. And that's a really good thing. By the way, the game has some returning unique enemies and bosses from previous Metroid games, but also adds in a good flair and variety of new stuff that you've never seen before in Metroid. Now, admittedly, I don't think this game is perfect, alright? There's a few things about the game that irked me, and since this is my Game of the Year awards, I do feel like I should tell you guys why maybe this game did not rank higher in my rankings, alright? One of the things that really annoyed me in the game is that some of the boss fights are incredibly cryptic to the point where they're puzzles. And ladies and gentlemen, As you know, as a content creator over the years, I've criticized puzzle bosses many, 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 many times. I don't like them. To me, if you're playing a video game and you have mastered the controls, you've mastered the weapons and elements in said game, all right, you should be able to go through the game and enjoy it and basically tackle all the challenges. Now, I'm not saying the game should be so easy that you could beat everything the first attempt, all right? But what I'm saying is essentially you should be able to, on the fly, adapt to what's going on in the game, maybe learn a pattern, get better, and then be able to beat everything in the game, as long as you understand the gameplay mechanics and you paid attention. In Metroid Dread, there are direct bosses that have absolutely nothing to do with the gameplay mechanics you have learned up to that point. It's literally a puzzle that you have to complete in a certain order or things you have to do to figure it out. All right? That's frustrating to me. I don't want to have to refight the same boss 27 times because each phase is something unique and different that you didn't even tell me about before. And that's really how I felt with some of the bosses in this game. Some people like that. Personally, that's a pet peeve of mine. I don't like puzzle bosses. In particular, I'm not going to spoil, but the final boss of the game is absolutely positively full of that shit. It is so annoying to try to figure out how to beat the phases of the final boss because everything's a different puzzle that's nothing like things you've done previously, and that really pissed me off. All right? Also, the Emmys. They're both kind of, I don't know. They're a curse as much of a blessing, okay? The Emmys add the uniqueness to the game. It's one of the unique things about the game that make it different from previous Metroids. But some of the Emmy rooms are very annoying. You have to try to find a way to platform through this room. The Emmy will randomly spawn in an area that might get you killed immediately. Now, when you get grabbed by one of these Emmy robots, you do get an opportunity to do a quick time event in conjunction with what you're seeing on the screen with their animation to escape. But it is incredibly difficult to time the quick time event reversal and escape the grasp of the Emmy. Oh, by the way, if you get grabbed by an Emmy and you don't escape, you're dead. You got to start the whole room from the checkpoint at the beginning. So let's say you've been trying to sneak through this room, get past the Emmy using stealth or whatever. You get to the end. Oh my God, it shows up out of nowhere, grabs you, dead. Do it all over. Now, not that that's going to take a lot of time, but man, it could be frustrating if the Emmy just keeps grabbing you over and over and over. And sometimes it feels like more like blind luck than actually skill getting you through some of these Emmy rooms. So maybe the Emmys could have been done a little bit differently. I'm not sure. Personally, the one that kind of held me up the most was kind of annoying and maybe took 5-10 minutes to beat. Not a big deal, but at the same time, a little bit of annoyance and a pet peeve as well. So, outside of those two criticisms that I just gave, the only other issue I really had is that there are some very cryptic puzzles in the game that don't give great rewards. And what I mean by that is, at the beginning of the game, you might find a wall that you can shoot with a missile. The wall blows open. Oh, look, here's a nice health upgrade. Later on in the game, you may have to solve a puzzle where you have to run through a room, through a door, through another room, do a double running jump, aerial dash, plow through a wall, lay down a mine, blow shit up, go through 17 more walls, and then finally at the very end, you find the same health power-up that you got at the beginning of the game by just shooting one missile at a wall. And it just doesn't feel equivalent in the skill that it takes to do certain things in the game, as opposed to some of the easier things you find earlier on. By the end of the game, it's like, wow, I thought I was going to get some like grandiose reward for this ginormous challenge that I accomplished, and you get like a little arbitrary mediocre health increase that you got similarly at the very beginning of the game for nothing. Okay? So, Metroid Dread is not a perfect game, but man, it's a good looking game. It's a good playing game. It is absolutely a throwback to classic Metroid. I'm curious how well Metroid Dread did, because if this game sold well, perhaps we'll actually see Metroid back regularly. You know, at one point, Metroid did actually have a lot of games coming out, and then it kind of just faded into obscurity, and every once in a while we'll see a new game, and sometimes they're odd choices, like Metroid Other M, that take the franchise in a different direction, and people don't necessarily embrace. This is a game that's very classic and similar to the older games in the franchise, so maybe it will do well, or maybe it did do well, and we'll see more. I really liked it, and personally, I would prefer that the series stay like this. And in addition to everything that I've said about the game, there's another reason why I really like Metroid Dread. Ladies and gentlemen, Metroid Dread single-handedly proved that Metroidvania-style games can actually be successful on my streams. And what I mean by that is that many, many times over my history as a content creator, I attempted to play Metroid-style games or Castlevania-style games, or a hybrid of the two. Sometimes it was actually Metroid or Castlevania that I played. Other times it was unique spins or hybrids like Ori and the Blind Forest, Child of Light, various other games like Blasphemy, Hollow Knight, etc. These are all games that in the past, when I tried to play them, literally my entire audience would tell me this is boring, stop playing it, play something else. This game may be a game that's fun to play but not fun to watch. Please move on. Okay? And so for the very longest time, I stayed away from Metroidvania-style games because that was the feedback I got. That was what I was told, is that this just doesn't work. All right? But then I played Metroid Dread. That all changed. Attendance was great. Support was great. People loved the playthrough and said, please, in the future, play more Metroidvania-style games. Now, I haven't yet. I mean, I just beat Metroid Dread about a month ago, so I'm not going to rush into that. But this game kind of made me feel way more positive about playing that style of game in the future, and I am excited to play more Metroidvania games as a result of Metroid Dread doing well. So not only was it like one of the best games and most fun games that I played in 2021, but it also opened up my content to a whole new possibility of game playthroughs for the future. So that's like a double positive for me. Okay? All right. Continuing on. My number 6 pick, all right, for best game of the year is Lost Judgment. A playthrough that I literally just finished last night. After playing this game as a new release when it came out, September 21st, I played it all the way until January 3rd. Holy shit. The playthrough was over 70 hours long. All right? Holy crap. So, Lost Judgment. Oh, hold on a second. I was supposed to do that. Lost Judgment! Because the playthrough went on so long. That's how people reacted whenever I talked about it on stream. Alright, let's get that back up there. Okay, that's the last time I get to do that. So, Lost Judgment. Alright? The direct sequel from the very successful 2019 release Judgment. A game that takes place in Kamurocho, and this time around, as well as a Jinsho, the same open world locations that the Yakuza franchise takes place in. Okay? The difference here is that Yakuza has gone in a different direction and become a turn-based RPG, much like Dragon Quest or Final Fantasy, while Lost Judgment has now become the game franchise to pick up the mantle of an action-based open world RPG. As you're going through Kamurocho and a Jinsho, you're being attacked by mobs, and these mobs are basically trying to beat you up, and you use different hand-to-hand kung fu combat styles that you unlock over the course of the game to fight off said mobs, okay? So, that's interesting, but also, there's an ongoing investigation. You're a detective. This time around, you're investigating a series of bullying cases at a local high school, all right? And it's interesting in that regard because there is a huge overlapping major plot line where you're trying to figure out what's going on with this bullying, where there are a series of students who actually were either murdered or committed suicide as a result of the bullying. And then perhaps there's someone out there who's a vigilante-style person who's trying to punish people who've done this bullying. So as a detective, you're hired to get to the bottom of all of this. And you have to interview kids from the school, teachers. You have to get involved with people all throughout the cities and towns around the way. And it becomes this crazy plot line involving the police, involving a big political group in Japan. It's actually interesting how they write these plots, because they originally say, oh, a bunch of kids bullying each other. Big fucking deal. What the hell does that have to do with like a big dramatic detective game? But man, by the time you get to the end, your mind is blown how deep down the rabbit hole this plot can go. Okay? So let's talk about Lost Judgment. First of all, graphics, actually a big improvement on the Xbox Series X over the previous games, or the previous game that I played in the series, because It runs at 60 frames per second for the very first time. It's beautiful. It's gorgeous. Smooth visuals. Although, admittedly, sometimes they chop up in combat. For the most part, the detail of the characters look almost photorealistic, and the 60 frames per second make it feel very, very authentic as you're playing along the game. The cities. Both Kamurocho and Ijincho, yes, they reuse the maps from Yakuza 7. As they've been doing, they've always kind of reused the assets from the games that this game studio makes. However, because you already have 2 established maps from another game, it opens up the game to a lot of variety of stuff and a lot of locations that are in addition to what you would expect from the original Judgment. It's good to have 2 different cities to kind of transport between and explore. You know, the world is vibrant. It's full of businesses that you can interact with. It's full of citizens who need help, and you'll stumble upon people in the streets that are going to need help with side missions and the like, and you're going to open up side investigations and cases with them as in line with the main plot line that you're going to be doing in the game. By the way, I was fairly certain that the videos I selected had gameplay. Apparently I was wrong. Looks like I picked the wrong video. Well, it is what it is. I already had this playing for like 3 minutes. I might as well just write it out. I don't know if there's I don't know if there's actually going to be any gameplay or if this is just a menu quest. It looks like a menu quest to me. Anyway, let's continue. So, Lost Judgment. What did Lost Judgment improve upon from the original Judgment? Well, there's more combat styles this time around. So if you like variety of combat, you've got Crane style, which is more like for attacking groups of enemies and his big flaring kicks. You got Tiger style, which is more hand-to-hand combat for one-on-one encounters, and it actually does guard breaks for enemies that like to block or use weapons and are basically trying to hit you with like super armor attacks. Then there's a new style called Snake style, which is a more evasive style. This is meant to basically be the counter move style. If you're fighting a group of enemies and they're coming at you from all directions, you can actually parry their attacks, throw them out of the way, and then attack other enemies. You can actually do this ability to toss all of them around in like a big combo. So Snake style actually was my favorite combat style of the game overall. I liked that it was unique and different compared to the other 2 styles, which you had basically seen in Yakuza games and Judgment 1 before. Now, one of the more unique things about this game that I personally liked and then disliked and then kind of liked again was that it has an entirely separate plot line from the main plot called the School Stories plotline, okay? So over the course of Lost Judgment, you're investigating the series of bullying that's going on at the school. You're investigating kids who committed suicide as a result of the bullying. You're trying to get to the bottom of how it all happened, okay? When you're doing that, you start having interactions with the kids at the school. And some of these kids end up getting wrapped up in things that sadly are, how can I say, not exactly things you would hope a high schooler would be involved in, like gambling or a biker club, okay? On the flip side of that, some of these are very kind of arbitrary school clubs that you would expect, like a dancing club or maybe a robotics club where they build little drones that compete against each other. And so, the School Stories include 10 completely different plot lines based around things that kids would be doing. It's interesting because it adds in a significant amount of gameplay to the game that normally you would be like, this isn't even really seeming to relate to the main plot of the game. And in reality, it doesn't. You're trying to track down a super criminal called the Professor, who basically is trying to cause the kids in the school to kind of be delinquents and making them go astray from, you know, a way that you would want a responsible kid to go. And so you're trying to figure out who this person is for the longest time while investigating the clubs and trying to do a series of mini-games. And man, these mini-games can get crazy. I'm talking as simple as innocuous as, oh, press a few buttons, time to music, and you'll dance. Okay, great. And admittedly, seeing Yagami, the main character, dressed up in a dancing outfit doing breakdance moves is pretty funny. But imagine a game that's a complete homage to Road Rash, a game from the 1990s that I played on the Sega Genesis, where you're riding a motorcycle and beating people up with chains and weapons. That literally is in this game in a 3D aspect. The school stories kind of go off the rails, and in reality, they're some of the most time-consuming content in the game. They take upwards of 20 to 30 hours alone to complete if you try to do all the school story plot lines. By the way, they do have a really epic finale plotline that's really neat. But one of my major criticisms of the game is that they didn't really find a way to tie the school stories in with the rest of the game. Literally, the school stories could have been sold as a separate standalone expansion, or maybe even another game, because they take so long to get through, they kind of deter you from enjoying the main plot line of the game. And if you just play the main plot line, sadly, you're missing out on a lot of the content, because the main plot line of this game can be beaten within 20 to 30 hours, while the school stories alone are around 20 to 30 hours long. If then you partake in other optional investigations and the like, your playthrough of Lost Judgment could be 80 or more hours. Mine clocked in around 70, and I'm actually planning on going back for post-game content in order to do more that I missed out on because I enjoyed the game so much. If you like epic drama, if you like detective investigations, if you like hand-to-hand kung fu, if you like nice graphics and you like to be immersed in the culture of urban Japan, then Lost Judgment is absolutely the game for you. But, gotta warn you, there's gonna be parts in the game that feel grindy, especially if you're doing the school stories content. There's gonna be times that you're gonna say, how the hell does this relate to anything we're doing? And the answer is, pretty much doesn't. But it's still a great game. Personally, the plot line of this game, I feel, wasn't necessarily as good as the main plot line of the first Judgment. Maybe that's why they had the separate plot line and they were trying to make up for it, okay, with the school stories. But overall, the game has a ridiculous amount of content. The game has a lot of fun content. I really enjoyed it, and it actually is one of my favorite games of the year. So, if this is your cup of tea, I definitely recommend you check it out. But I'll tell you right now, if you don't like Japanese culture, whoo boy, you probably are going to feel lost in this game and not enjoy it at all, because this is very heavy delving into the mannerisms, the cultural practices, the hobbies, the lifestyles of people who live in Japan. A lot of the stuff like, you know, the girls' bar and stuff like that, you may not understand. I don't blame you. But hey, it's a hell of a ride. It's a lot of content. It's a great value. It's a great plot. Check it out. Lost Judgment, a great game. Alrighty then. Alright guys, so now, we are about to head into the cream of the crop. We are about to head to the top 5 games of 2021, in my opinion. Okay? You guys ready? The number 5 best game of 2021 is a game that blew me away because I did not anticipate that this game would be good. In fact, everything that I was led to believe and had seen about this game actually led me to believe that it would suck. But my God, were we all wrong? Ladies and gentlemen, what is going on here? It is Marvel's Guardians of the Galaxy. Wow. If you want to talk about a game that was shockingly good compared to what we were actually shown beforehand, and a game that likely undersold tons because the game did not get good marketing, this is the game. All right? If you like Guardians of the Galaxy from the movies, if you like them from the comic books, or anything in between, this game is absolutely outstanding. It captures the personalities of each of the Guardians to a T. Drax, the brooding, yet also kind of funny, matter-of-fact kind of guy. Gamora, who is an ultimate assassin badass thrown amongst a bunch of jackasses who are constantly messing around, and she's forced to kind of deal with their nonsense. Groot, the anthropomorphic tree that can only say Groot, but has some pretty cool powers and has a heart of gold. Rocket Raccoon, the consummate gun for hire that's willing to do anything to make a buck and really doesn't have much of a conscience about it, but also is a pretty funny personality. And then you got Star-Lord. But anyway, all these characters, unique, fun, interesting, very different, all right? And they basically nailed their personalities. They did. Some of the interactions these characters have are absolutely hilarious. Some of the writing of the game, the dialogue, the quirky dialogue that these guys have between each other, not only in combat, but also just between action scenes, is amazing. What is Guardians of the Galaxy? Well, it's a narrative-based game where you're trying to save the galaxy. There's various plot points that happen. There's a cult that basically is going through the galaxy trying to indoctrinate all these people and cultures, and it's your job to try to stop them. And you have run-ins with various different characters from the Marvel Universe over the course of the game. It's pretty interesting in that regard. By the way, no Thanos, thank God, because I'm so tired of Thanos in Guardians games and or Guardians plot lines that it was very refreshing to have a game where he wasn't a major character. Thank the Lord. The game is a combination of third-person action. You always play as Star-Lord, but you control the other Guardians. And as you go through the course of the game, it has unique RPG elements where you earn experience points and you are able to level up the other Guardians to get new abilities. For example, some Guardians can do area of effect abilities that will knock down or knock back all the enemies. Some Guardians will have moves that can stun an enemy. Some Guardians will just have very high damage moves or moves that maybe can hit them with a projectile from afar. And so they're all very different depending on what you level up and what you choose to do with each character. It is a little disappointing that you can't control all the Guardians fully in combat. It would have been great if you could change it freely between them on the fly. But sadly, you only control Star-Lord in combat and just kind of order around the other guys for powerful assist attacks when viable. There's also exploration, puzzles, platforming. As you can see here, just going a little bit to one direction instead of where you were supposed to go directly can lead to a destructible wall, which then can lead to some hidden items, upgrades, and otherwise some really interesting things that maybe you would have missed if you weren't too observing. The game goes through all kinds of locations in the Marvel Universe, including places already known from the Guardians of the Galaxy universe, like the town of Nowhere, but also many other places as well. It has several epic large-scale boss fights. The game is really well done. It basically is, in my opinion, what I think most people kind of wanted or expected out of the Avengers video game from 2020, but instead didn't get. If this game had come out before Avengers, I actually feel like this game would have been a ridiculous over-the-top bestseller. But here's what I think happened. Avengers is a game that a lot of money and marketing was thrown into. Crystal Dynamics, aiming to make a game that was more of a cooperative, grindy style experience rather than a unique narrative style one, kind of dropped the ball. And so when the game came out, you would play through the 10+ hour campaign, and as soon as you were done, you realized, wow, this game is now just a grindy mess of repetitive garbage. I'm never playing it ever again. And most people dropped it entirely and never went back. So it was a huge money-making loss for Square Enix. They had hoped that Avengers were going to be a giant cash cow, and instead they actually lost money on the game. So when it came to Guardians of the Galaxy, which already was in development, I almost feel like Square Enix had lost some of their faith in the Marvel franchises and were worried that if they heavily advertised Guardians of the Galaxy, they'd be wasting their money because it was going to be another performance flop. Therefore, the game was released with little to no marketing, little to no hype, and most of the production content that we were shown of, oh, here's a little bit of an example of gameplay or whatever, ended up being completely underwhelming. So you would look at it and say, man, I guess this game ain't going to be so good. In fact, out of all the stuff that we had seen up to that point, the only thing that looked impressive was the dialogue of the characters kind of talking to each other and having this comedic interactions. But outside of that, nothing else in the game looked very good. But man, when the game came out and people finally got their hands on it and they realized how good it was, how shockingly good the game was compared to what we were led to believe, it was almost like feeling guilty. Like, I didn't play this game release week. I waited about a week and a half later when people had played it and said, nah, Phil, you got to understand, this game's really good. You're missing out if you don't play it. You've got to give it a shot. So I did, and my God, am I glad that I did. Because I really feel like I would have been so missing out on a unique cinematic experience if I hadn't played it. In fact, ladies and gentlemen, I'm not ashamed to say this. I will admit it to you publicly right here. Ladies and gentlemen, I, Phil Burnell, content creator for 13 years, and 39-year-old man, cried when I played Guardians of the Galaxy. I actually teared up and cried because the writing was so good that in 2 separate scenes, it made me feel sad because of things that happened to the characters, and I actually legitimately teared up and started crying during the playthrough. Now, everyone, of course, called me a big wimp and a sissy, and they're right. I mean, I shouldn't be crying over video games. I'm an old man. But You see what I'm saying? Like, the game is actually that good. Don't say, oh, it's another Marvel game. Ah, Guardians of the Galaxy, that's a joke. No, the game is legitimately one of the best written games I've played in many, many years, and actually has very fun gameplay mechanics that are worth exploring, whether or not you're even really a major fan of Marvel. Of course, if you are, that's just like the icing on the cake. You're going to like the game even more if you're already a fan of Marvel or the Guardians, and then you play this game. By the way, the game was a sales flop at launch. Then they cut the prices dramatically, so you can probably get Guardians of the Galaxy for around 20 bucks right now. It's worth every dollar. It's a lengthy game, by the way. I believe my playthrough was 20 hours long or something like that. It absolutely was one of my shockingly good favorite games of 2021. All right, ladies and gents. Now we're getting down to the nitty gritty. You ready for this? The number 4 best game, 4th best game of 2021. Psychonauts 2. A game that really, in my opinion, had potential to go south. This game was in development hell for an incredibly long time, okay? It was supposed to, you know, we expected it to come out many years ago. And the fact that I had zero faith in Tim Schafer as a game developer after having played Broken Age many years ago. A narrative-based game that was more similar to Tales of Monkey Island, or excuse me, Secret of Monkey Island, and really was a ripoff because the first half of the game was great. The second half of the game literally reused all the assets from the first half of the game, and basically felt completely unfinished. So when Psychonauts 2 was announced, I was not feeling very positive at all about the game, thinking that, man, this game dev team really kind of lost their way, and I don't see how this is going to be a good game, okay? Psychonauts 2, ladies and gentlemen, blew my mind. It was so good. The graphics, the uniqueness of the level design, the ingenuity that was put behind the puzzles, the actual combat gameplay as you get further into the game, which gets more interesting, although admittedly, once you get further into the game, I do feel like the actual combat was maybe a little bit oversimplified to the point where it wasn't ultra challenging. But man, the fact that you can go inside so many different people's minds, and each person's mind is completely different. And one mind, it's a very kind of cut and dry. Oh, you're in a hospital. Oh, you're in like a library. But you know, another person's mind, everything's colorful and exciting. You're in a bowling alley where giant balls are being rolled around, and you have to solve puzzles based on that aspect. Okay, you're in a casino where everything is about gambling and taking a chance, right? It's very unique in that regard. By the way, the game also has an open world aspect to it where you can explore and find optional upgrades, items, and solve puzzles that you never really have to even bother with, but man, they're fun to kind of explore and experiment with. The graphics on the Xbox Series X, they're absolutely outstanding. I never really had an issue with the graphics at all. It was full 60 frames the entire way through. The lighting was gorgeous. And by the way, here's something that actually I have to talk about because I found it very, very interesting, okay? When we were all playing Ratchet & Clank Rift Apart, one of the unique parts of that game is that there's rifts, and you walk through the rift, right? And now you went from one world to the other world and experience the power of the SSD of the PlayStation 5. You notice how there was no loading, right? Well, guess what, ladies and gentlemen? In Psychonauts 2, you go through doors and or portals. You end up in a completely different room and or other world, and there's no loading. So that entire argument that they had about Ratchet & Clank claiming that, only the PlayStation 5 could handle portals and going from world to world was complete bullshit. Because Psychonauts 2 did exactly the same thing. It wasn't like, the guys using PS5 really utilized it. Any game console, any PC, anything that has a speedy hard drive can pull this off. It's not a revolutionary thing. It wasn't like Sony blew our socks off with Ratchet & Clank. Psychonauts 2 did it just the same, okay? So, I really enjoyed Psychonauts 2 more than I think I really should have. Now, one thing I need to tell you guys, all right? Just because you didn't hear many people talk about Psychonauts 2 this year doesn't mean you shouldn't check it out. Just because you didn't play Psychonauts 1 doesn't mean you shouldn't check it out. I'm here to tell you, this game absolutely is a game worth your time. And by the way, it's under Game Pass. So if you have an Xbox console or a PC and you have Game Pass Ultimate, there's absolutely no reason why you should skip out on playing this game. It really is a very fun, unique, and enjoyable experience, okay? Now, the sad fact is, this game got no marketing. Just like Guardians of the Galaxy, this game was not advertised. No one even knew when it came out that it wasn't an Xbox exclusive. Multiple people came to my streams and were like, well, I don't have an Xbox, I can't play it. Like, well, do you have a PC? Yeah, it's on PC. What? They didn't even know. They didn't know that the game was on PC. They didn't know it was cross-platform at all. They thought you could only play it on an Xbox console, which is completely false. It's actually cross-platform, okay? So, oh my God, did you see that? I jump scared myself. Anyway, yeah, the game literally got no advertisement budget, so no one really knew about the game when it came out. Unless you were a fan of Tim Schafer and his studio, no one really talked about it, okay? This game, even though ended up being one of my favorite games of the year, didn't even make the top 10 most sold games of the month when it released, even though it was free under Game Pass. That is very bad. When a game is under Game Pass and it can't make the top 10, and it's supposedly a high-profile game, that's pretty upsetting. I feel like this game was completely passed by a lot of people, sadly because they didn't know what it was or had no idea it was going to be good. It's ridiculously good. I urge you, give Psychonauts 2 a try. And this is from someone who personally did not like Tim Schafer for the longest time and had no faith in his game studio. Personally, I feel like this ended up being one of my favorite games of the year, perhaps one of my favorite games of the last several years, with its creativity, its fun, its colorfulness, the uniqueness of the design of the characters, the bosses, the world. Everything about the game is polished and well done. You definitely want to give this game a shot, especially if maybe this is one you pass by because you said, I didn't hear many people talk about it. It's definitely worth your time. All right. And with that, ladies and gentlemen, we're in the top 3. We're in the home stretch for my Game of the Year awards. Whew! We're already over an hour and 15 minutes into this thing. Woo! We're getting there. We got 3 more to go. All right? 3 more games to go. So I hope you guys are ready for the absolute cream of the crop. The absolute best of the best. The creme de la creme. The piece de resistance. All right? Let's just go right into it. What am I dilly-dallying for? Number 3 is Hades. Now, before you freak out and you get angry with me and you say, Phil, I'm very upset with you. Hades did not come out in 2021. How dare you put it into your Game of the Year awards for 2021? There's 2 important points that I should make about this game. My first point is that I didn't play it back when it was on other consoles or other venues available. It was actually on Switch in 2020, and it was actually released on PC all the way back in 2018 in early access and full access in 2019. All right? However, I didn't play those. Number 2, this game was only made readily available on an Xbox console during this summer under Game Pass. So technically, this one got into my countdown on a technicality because, yeah, it is a game that's been out for a few years, but it is a new release for 2021 if you played it on an Xbox console. So you see what I did there? I wedged it in. And I'm glad I did because, ladies and gentlemen, Hades is one of the best games I've played in a very long time. I was incredibly pleasantly surprised by how good it was. When I went into it, I didn't have any conceptions of what it was, but I had heard that people had said it was previously Game of the Year, and I knew that I was probably in for something good. Okay? Let me tell you guys something. I love Hades. Like, I don't just like it. It ended up being a game that grew on me every time I played it. And here's why. Unlike Returnal, a game that absolutely does not appreciate your playing it or bought it, a game that every time you die says, ha ha ha, you loser, get good, you have to play for 3 straight hours and never die and beat the boss in one shot in order to make any progress that sticks, Hades is the polar opposite. Even though Hades has RNG, even though Hades has different enemies that it throws at you every time, different weapons that you'll find every time, every single time that you do a run through Hades, you actually feel like you made progress. Whether it's you unlocked something new for a weapon, whether it's you got enough upgrade points that you can buy an upgrade that you wanted, you couldn't get up to that point, whether you go back to the main hub area and there's all new plot points that have now been unlocked with the different gods that are talking to you there. No matter what, when you're playing Hades, you always feel like you're moving forward positively. Even if you had a relatively bad run, it feels fun and worth your time with the way that they designed the game. Hades proves that you can make a roguelike game where if you die, it doesn't matter because you're still pushing forward positively. That is the complete and utter opposite from Returnal, which was the first roguelike I played. I really wish I had played Hades first because likely it would have given me a much better and more positive opinion on what a roguelike could be. Hades has great graphics, even though they're kind of top-down hand-drawn art. They really aren't. It's really more kind of like a cartoonish cel-shaded deal. It has a good variety of enemies, even though it technically only has 4 worlds. There's enough variety in the RNG factor of how those worlds are generated to make it feel unique and interesting and different when you're going through these different runs. The weapons, there's not that many, but as you play through the game, you can unlock what's called hidden aspects of these weapons that completely change the way that you use them. The spear originally is just used to poke enemies and throw, but eventually with a hidden aspect, you could charge it up and throw it to do a spinning area of effect attack. Sometimes you can have the spear come back to you and do double damage. As you progress through the game, you're talking to various different gods and asking them for boons, which are basically giving you their powers and blessings, which give you elemental effects and or other things like healing and stuff that make you more powerful. Let me tell you guys something. I played Hades for a pretty exceptionally long period of time. In fact, I can't tell you off the top of my head exactly how long the playthrough was. Probably around 30 to 40 hours, I would think. Not once did I actually play through it and feel like, man, I totally feel like I'm doing the same thing over and over. It was actually the opposite. Every time that I played the game, even my viewers felt like, wow, we can help Phil build a unique build here. Let's give him some advice on what he should buy or what he should get from a god to go through these dungeons. It's super fun to go through this game and experiment with different weapons. And again, even if you're not successful in a run and you don't make progress, let's say you don't kill a critical boss, you don't escape from Hades, you don't find yourself being successful, you'll still feel like what you did was worthwhile. Whether it's because of plot advancement or an upgrade to a weapon or whatever it may be, you'll actually feel like you made progress and that you had a good time. I really don't feel like I need to spend too long talking about Hades because so many people have praised this game over the last 2 to 3 years, some going as far as calling it their official game of the year. I'm not going to go that far, but Hades is absolutely shockingly good. I think that if you have ignored it up to this point like I did until this summer, you should give it a shot. If it's not your cup of tea, fine. But I actually feel like a lot of people may be missing out on this game, fearing that it's a roguelike and kind of being afraid of that title. I'm here to tell you, it's basically one of the best roguelike games out of the ones that I've played this year. It is the best. And I think that it's kind of, you're doing a detriment to yourself, missing out on not playing this game just because it's a roguelike, all right? Give it a shot. You may like it. Even if you don't, I feel like you're going to still at least get a good understanding of what a good roguelike could be. By the way, I should say that Hades is a challenging game. It absolutely is, although the more that you play it, the more leveling and the more abilities you get, the more capable you'll be of handling the very large amount of difficulty that the game can tend to throw at you in the later runs. But, man, it's a great game. It's a great plot. I loved every minute of it. I really enjoyed it. Hades, my number 3 favorite game of 2021. All right. All right, guys. So, we got all the way up from number 13 up to number 3. But sadly, we're out of time. So, no more. You won't get to find out my top 2 games of the year. Sorry, guys. See you later. See you next year. All right. In actuality, I've been sitting down for 90 minutes and my legs were starting to tighten up. I was like, dude, I got to get up and stretch my legs. All right. I was just kidding. Let's continue on, guys. My number 2 pick My number 2 favorite game of 2021. At this point, a lot of people have kind of narrowed it down to the 2 games they think will be my top 2. But you guys don't necessarily know which game I'm going to pick for Game of the Year. So, instead of telling you my pick for Game of the Year, I am going to show you the top 2, tell you what I like about them, and then reveal my pick for Game of the Year to build even more suspense. So there you go. So, let me reveal to you the top 2 games of the year, and then I'll tell you which actually is my Game of the Year pick. First of all, let's start off with Resident Evil Village. The game that way back when I played it in April, I told you guys, man, it blew me away. Not only were the graphics outstanding on the PlayStation 5, but the fact that this game completely blew the lid off the idea of what Resident Evil was, okay? Yes, it was first person, much like Resident Evil 7, but let me tell you guys, at this point, I didn't even know what to expect. This game had zombie-like monsters, not official zombies, but zombie-like monsters, werewolves, vampires, killer animals, ghosts. Okay, maybe not actual ghosts, but things that kind of were like ghosts. Or at least you were led to believe that maybe some stuff was haunted. As well as mutated monstrous creatures that were just hideous freaks. Okay? So it's not your grandpappy's Resident Evil. Okay? It's basically a new spin on the franchise. Okay? And it showed that they could go in a direction that you didn't expect. An open world village full of mutated freakish creatures out to kill you. But the game actually had unique locations that all felt different. At one point, you're going off to a castle full of demonous vampires who want to suck your blood. Then you're off to a mansion or manor that's haunted and full of killer dolls. Then you're off to like a fortress of the woods, and there's all these crazy werewolves trying to kill you. And like, damn, and each time you do this, it feels like a unique and fun and different experience. The game definitely retains a lot of the aspects of Resident Evil 7, but at the same time extrapolates upon them. You do once again play as the same character, who I believe his name is Ethan, who obviously has something weird going on with him. If you saw Resident Evil 7, you'll know what I'm talking about. I don't really want to spoil for those who maybe didn't. But, man, the game is full of scares, both jump scares as well as psychological horror, all right? Let me tell you the point in the game where I actually literally wanted to crap my pants, and it had nothing to do with the jump scare, okay? Relatively early on in the game, you're going through this village, the open world town, okay? And as you're doing so, werewolves start to appear all around you. They start to gang up on you. And you're like, okay, let me kill a couple of them. So you start murdering them or whatever. Next thing you realize, like, wait a minute. There's more. Wait a minute. There's even more. And you start looking around. You're like, what the hell? You're surrounded by like over a dozen werewolves. And they just keep coming. Then another bigger, almost boss-like werewolf dude shows up. You're like, now what am I supposed to do? Obviously, you don't have unlimited funds, I almost said. Unlimited ammo. And you can't kill all these things. So now you're like, okay, maybe the goal is to survive, but I didn't know that. So now you're frantically trying to figure out what do you do to survive, and you're running through this town desperately. You're running up to the top floors of houses. You're running on rooftops. You're jumping all around, and they're completely surrounding you. It scared the shit out of me. That is horror. Seriously, that's how you do horror. Not, oh, a stupid oogly boogly jump scare came out and made you crap for 5 seconds. No, this is like, okay, the whole town's out to get me. I'm screwed. What do? I have limited ammo. I don't know where to go. That is true tenseness, and that actually scared the crap out of me. So, this game absolutely encompasses what I feel modern survival horror is all about. Is it like Tormented Souls with tank controls and all kinds of crap like that? Of course it's not. But, man, was it an entertaining and fun experience. Like I said, having unique bosses, crazy gameplay elements that I didn't expect to be in the game, fighting the big variety of enemies and the variety of locations that this game encompassed. It also was quite lengthy. Resident Evil Village, man, it blew me away. I absolutely positively loved it. Of course, it's not perfect. There were a few times when I feel it went off the rails. There's a particular boss near the end of the game with a lot of robotic parts and stuff that I was like, what the frick is going on here? And that kind of threw me for a loop because I really didn't feel like it was authentic Resident Evil. But outside of that, it was a really great game. And by the way, the really cool part about it is that it basically tied in with the plotline of the previous Resident Evil games, which I didn't expect it to do. When I started playing, I was like, wow, this is like off the rails of Resident Evil. It just doesn't feel like Resident Evil. By the end of the game, it completely ties in with everything and even goes as far to explain the backstory of many of the different viruses and things of Resident Evil up to this point in the franchise, which blew me away that they were able to tie it up like that. So Resident Evil Village, incredibly outstanding game, scary as hell, full of fun gameplay elements, uniqueness of enemies, really, really well done, and definitely in my top 2 games of the year. But is it my game of the year? We'll find out in a moment, but I need to shout out these super chat that I just got from Kool-Aid Bath, who says, loving the positive stream today, Phil. Thank you to Kool-Aid Bath for the super chat. Let's get that up on the leaderboard. Okay. Now, there's another game left that we need to discuss. A game that, in my opinion, at this point, was kind of make or break for a particular series and franchise. Yeah, a game that, man, if this game had originally been released when it was supposed to, probably would have actually been the end of this franchise. But thankfully, the right thing was done. The game was delayed for a year. It was able to be developed further and made into what it is today. Ladies and gentlemen, the game that I'm talking about, of course, is Grand Theft Auto Definitive Edition. No. Not even close. The game I'm talking about is not Resident Evil 8. I clicked the wrong thing. Halo Infinite. Of course. Halo Infinite. All right? So, wow. Do you guys remember when they first showed Halo Infinite off around the summer of 2020? How much they made fun of it. The meme about that character Craig, who was supposed to be a brute, and he looked so ridiculous. His face was so poorly animated and shaded, and everyone completely ripped it a new asshole and said, if this game comes out this fall, my God, this game is going to be terrible, right? Because it looks so bad. And I personally even remember, I personally remember saying, man, this game is not ready. And so they delayed it a year. And that absolutely positively was the right thing to do. If they had rushed this out as a launch title for the Xbox Series S and X, it likely would have been unfinished junk. It would have been a piece of dog shit. Everyone would have laughed at it. And quite frankly, that could have been the end of Halo for good. I actually feel that. I'm very happy that they made the right choice and they delayed it a year. Because by doing that, not only did they put an incredible amount of polish and thought into the campaign, now making it a semi-hybrid game. Yes, there's definitely linear areas in the game when you go inside a base that's like a tower or an underground bunker, and it's very traditional Halo-style gameplay, kind of fighting gauntlets of enemies, having to use weapons and things that you discover in there to your advantage. But also, there's these large open-world segments, base takeovers, killing VIP targets, rescuing Marines that are under attack. And all along for the ride is the end-all, be-all, best addition to the Halo franchise that I think they ever could have added, the grappling hook. That grappling hook single-handedly made the campaign of Halo Infinite interesting, because one of my major complaints and or criticisms of the Halo franchise over the years has always been that Master Chief is basically like a slow-moving tank. He's not versatile enough in these games, okay? He's slow. You're supposed to be a one-man army going up against hordes of aliens, right? Great. Can I move faster than the speed of like a small jog? And he's always had this issue. The grappling hook allows you to be maneuverable, whether that means you can pull yourself to safety or maybe pull yourself into an enemy for a flying punch, whatever it may be. All right? The grappling hook allows you now to have the maneuverability you never had possible previous in the Halo franchise. In addition, One of the major criticisms that I've had of the Halo campaigns over the years that I've played them is that they're far too linear, and a lot of them allow you to literally rush past content. A room full of enemies that you can run through and ignore every enemy as long as you get to the door and it closes behind you, mission accomplished. This is present in Halo Infinite's campaign, don't get me wrong, but not always. Because of the open world segments, it allows you to have parts of the game where you actually need to have skill to pass them. You're fighting insurmountable odds, right? 2, 3 high-level brutes fighting together at once. Or perhaps taking over a base where there's snipers all over the place. There's no shortcut here. You've got to get good. You got to kill all those sons of bitches and take over that base. You can't run through it. You can use the grappling hook to your advantage to be more maneuverable. That's really good. Also, the plot line of Halo Infinite is interesting and fun. Admittedly, is it the best plot I've ever experienced? No. Is it even the best plot I've experienced in 2021? No. Is it in the top 5 plots that I experienced in 2021? Probably not. But it's actually way better than the plot lines of the last several Halo games, okay? Sometimes you just got to find something that's good enough, and Halo Infinite's campaign is the best campaign, in my opinion, since Halo 3. That includes Reach, and I liked the campaign of Halo Reach. I actually feel this is a good restarting point for Master Chief to get back into prominence with mainstream gamers. I feel a lot of people don't know about Master Chief or who the hell he is anymore because the last 2 games sucked ass. Now, people can actually enjoy the franchise again because they kind of rebooted it in a way that made sense. There's unique and interesting characters and writing. It's fun. It's definitely better than those last 2 outings. Halo 4 and 5, in my opinion, sucked. This game actually was entertaining. Was it the best? No, but it was a fun ride. Now I'd like to talk about the multiplayer of Halo Infinite. I don't have any footage of that set up, but I just wanted to let you guys know that Halo Infinite, again, this was kind of a make or break situation where basically it could have really flopped and failed if they just tried to do what they had already done or if they had tried to copy others. What they did was a unique combination. When you play the multiplayer of Halo Infinite, it feels like old school Halo combined with some modernized gameplay mechanics. It's not all new like Call of Duty, and it's not all old like Halo 3. It feels like a unique hybrid. And I think that's actually what they needed to do. If they had gone one way or the other, you would have had one group or another complaining that it's too much like one franchise or too much like old stuff that's outdated. You needed to have enough of a mix for this to work. And I actually feel like they got it right. My only major criticism of the multiplayer of Halo Infinite at this point in time, which is about roughly 2 months from when it was originally released in early November 2021, I just don't think there's enough content yet. There's only a set amount of maps. For big team battles, there's only 2 or 3 maps. For standard multiplayer modes, there's about maybe 6, I believe. There's just not enough right now. And in addition to that, it actually took them an entire freaking month, all right, in order to pump out playlists that worked properly. For a whole month, you could only play randomized modes. That means Team Slayer, Oddball, Capture the Flag, and the Territories all were in one playlist, and you couldn't just pick what you wanted. Now, at least, they've separated it out to Free-for-All, Team Slayer, Party Mode, or excuse me, Fiesta Mode, where it has randomized weapons, etc., in their own respective playlists. They have a lot of work they need to do. They definitely need to add in more content to the multiplayer mode. Although, admittedly, it's kind of cool because guess what? It's freaking free. The multiplayer is free for everyone. You don't even need Game Pass. You just get it for free if you have something that will run it. That's pretty unprecedented. I can't believe that's the route they went. At the very same time, a lot of people are very critical of the game, saying that the microtransactions for cosmetics are just out of control. You know, charging someone $10 for cat ears in a first-person shooter is a little extreme. At the same time, this is how they're making their money because the game is freaking free. So, Halo Infinite, a return to form for the franchise. Shockingly good. I really enjoyed both the campaign and the multiplayer, and to this day, I'm still regularly playing the multiplayer. In fact, it's my late stream tonight, and I'm having so much fun with it. that I cannot wait to play it over the course of 2022. In fact, Halo Infinite by far trumped both Call of Duty and Battlefield this year, which no one expected it to do. It just is the only viable and worthwhile FPS game right now. There's no reason to play the other military shooters that have dominated for the last decade. Just play this game and enjoy. So Halo Infinite, an absolutely outstanding game. Now, whew, that's the top two. But what is my actual Game of the Year pick? After nearly 2 hours of going through my Game of the Year awards, I am ready to announce it here live on stream, ladies and gentlemen. And then I'm about to tell you why. All right? Ladies and gentlemen, my pick for my favorite game 2021 is Resident Evil Village. All right? Now, I don't need to show you gameplay because we already saw it. But let me explain why I picked Resident Evil Village as my favorite game of the year. It's very subjective this time around, okay? Personally, I enjoy survival horror way more than other franchises. I just do. Like, whenever I play a survival horror game, it feels like it's a special time on my streams. Whether it's because I like getting a little spooked, or I like surviving, or people like my reactions to survival horror. Literally, people tell me they, in a lot of cases, don't like playing survival horror games, or they can't, they get too scared, but they enjoy coming to my streams and videos to watch me play. I give them a way to enjoy survival horror. Whenever I play a survival horror game, it feels like a party atmosphere around here. People come out in droves to see me rage, to see me get scared, to see me persevere, whatever it may be. Resident Evil 8, for me, out of all the games that I played in 2021, when I played Resident Evil 8, it felt like an event. It did. It felt like this is an event you can't miss. I enjoyed the hell out of it the entire time I played it. So did my viewing audience. And people came out in droves to support and watch it. This was at a time when things were in flux for me. I had been kicked out of the Twitch partner program. I was trying to make a living on Twitch with no revenue besides tips. It was a rough time. And people came out in droves to watch this. And it felt so special to me. A game that really tried to venture outside of the mold of what survival horror in Resident Evil terms had been up to that point, and do a variety of things, a wide variety of locations and enemies, introducing new plot points and new game mechanics, and having revolutionary, groundbreaking graphics that blew me away at the time. It basically hit it on all cylinders for me. It did. I loved Resident Evil 8. There were some criticisms and things I had about it, but in general, by the time that the credits rolled, I was incredibly pleased with the experience that I had. Like I said, a real way to tell a game that is a Game of the Year pick for you or resonates with you, think about all the games you played in a year and which ones do you still think about today? Which ones do you still remember distinct moments in the playthrough that you really enjoyed and or resonate with you that are going to stick with you for a long time? Resident Evil 8 had more of those moments than any other game for me in 2021. Not to say that a game like Halo Infinite or Bowser's Fury or Metroid Dread or Lost Judgment won't resonate with me. But man, when I think what's the big event that happened in 2021, for me it absolutely was Resident Evil Village. That was like, if you are going to miss out on a game, that's the game that if you miss out on, man, you're going to be disappointed. You know what I'm saying? So I hope that you guys, if you didn't play Resident Evil Village, all two of you out there will give it a look or give my playthrough a watch here on DSP Gaming, because I loved that game and absolutely that was my pick for Game of the Year. I'm not aware of much survival horror coming out in 2022 besides maybe Ghostwire Tokyo, which seems to be like it's going to be a very different style of game from traditional survival horror. I guess we'll see. But anyway, I had a great time with the game, and I hope that you'll give it a shout out, or give it a chance as well, is what I meant to say. All right, so ladies and gentlemen, that is it. That is my year-end series for 2021. That is my Game of the Year Awards picks, number 13 all the way up to number 1. Now, something unique about this year. There are comments on my videos again. So if you're watching this countdown and you agree, you disagree, maybe you think something should have been ranked higher or lower, maybe you just want to rip me a new butthole, you can leave a comment on the video and do so. How cool is that? Please do. If anything, the one thing that I really miss about my year-end series is that they used to feel like an event. A discussion would open up around them and people would talk. Hundreds of people would talk about my opinions in games, and it would start up all this discourse, and that all kind of went away when the comments went away here on DSP Gaming many years ago. They're back. So by all means, please leave a comment and let's have some fun and open discussion about what your favorite games were in 2021. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for an amazing year of games. You guys came in droves to my streams, whether they were on Twitch or YouTube. You supported me no matter where I was. Thank you so very much for an outstanding year. I cannot wait for what the new year brings. Now that we're a few days into it, we already got a few inklings of some awesome things that are in the works, and I'm very excited to be putting out fun gameplay content for you guys every single day. Here's to the future. Ladies and gentlemen, cheers. Thank you for all of the support last year. And here is to a positive future moving forward. Thanks, everyone. This is Darkside Phil signing off for his Game of the Year awards for 2021. Peace out.